I got all these questions. I don't know if I can finish all of these today. First question, my friends are not getting along. They used to treat each other with respect, but now one of them is getting picked on by the others. How can it help them realize what they are doing is wrong with compassion? They got along before, now they couldn't get along. There must be reasons for it. To solve a problem, you have to know what triggers the problem. So let's look at the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths said that we've gone through suffering, we have to find out the causes of suffering, then there's a way to stop suffering, and when the suffering is stopped, no more reincarnations, no more life and death. So why don't we use the Four Noble Truths? Buddhism, it's an application to life. I always think that UBC should have a course that says, apply Buddhism. Apply the Four Noble Truths to solve this question. And now, if there's a problem, one didn't treat the other well, they couldn't get along. That's the problem. Identification of the problem. They couldn't get along, right? And you have to find out the causes of the problem. Like you have to find out the causes of suffering. So, in order to find out the cause of suffering, you could be a third person, right? You're the third person, right? Or, I don't know, some people ask questions as if they are the third person, but actually they are the first person, singular. They get involved in it. Well, if you're a third person, you just gather the two parties together in a very good atmosphere, and then talk about it. Find out what the problems are. And when you find out the problems, don't immediately solve it on the spot. Because when each party is explaining his problem, they're getting very emotional. As I said before, if you use your emotional mind to react to circumstances, you cannot solve the problem. You have to use your thinking mind. Remember, the mind is in two parts. One is called the thinking mind, the other is called the emotional mind. When you are using your emotional mind to react to anything, you're blind. You're blind. You're blind with the emotion. You have to use your thinking and your reasoning. So what you do is find out the problem, take your time, and then everybody uses thinking mind, reasoning mind to find out a solution for it, get a solution for it. It could be because of the utterance of a sentence that the other party doesn't like. It could be because she didn't wash the dishes out clean. Or it could be because she didn't clean up the apartment and the floor was dirty. It could be because of something that the other party didn't know about. Or it's because of some misunderstanding. So why not find out the causes of the problem, talk about it, but don't intend to solve it right on the spot on that day, in that particular moment. Because when they are discussing about the problems, they're not using the thinking mind, they're using the emotional mind. Yes? Yeah, you're stopping. That's good. Yeah, what do you say? Yeah?
There's a group of people who are picking on one.
When there's a group of people picking on one person, it's very embarrassing because everybody is against you. So why would you want you, if you are that particular person, you go through the righteous behavior of tolerance. You just listen. You don't immediately get emotional. You don't cry, you don't yell back, you don't get angry, you don't do that. You just listen very attentively as to what the whole group has to say. If the whole group misunderstands you, then you air out what you mean. If you really have made the error, you confessed it. You say, yes, I shouldn't be doing that. I will change. Give me time to change it. Don't be afraid of acknowledging your mistake. humans are grossly imperfect. So why not just listen to the whole group to see what they have to say? Now, the possibility is, there are two possibilities. What they said is unreasonable. The other possibility is what they said is reasonable. And if you think that really the whole group is unreasonable, if the whole group has a special bias against you, a bias that you cannot resolve, you don't bounce back. You have to walk away. I still remember that song, the old song when I was in Hong Kong, listening to that song when I was a teenager, Walk Away. Have you heard that song? Walk away. Don't throw your life away. Don't throw yourself away. Walk on, just walk on. Don't blame others. Just walk away. Just leave before you throw your life away. Yeah, right. So there's so many solutions to it, but I think to solve this problem, you have to combine your endurance, reasoning mind. Don't react with emotional mind. When a problem comes up like that, in 90% of the cases, people react with emotion. So when the thinking mind and the emotional mind is in conflict, usually the case is the emotional mind wins. Because people have the habit of using emotional mind to react to things. You just walk away. Or you walk away for a certain time and then you walk back again. If you mix with the wrong group, it's good for you to walk away. Deal with it with a reasoning mind, endurance, time. Remember when we study Satipatthana. Satipatthana, I told you what is Satipatthana. Sati is attention. Upa is within. Thana is to place. To place your attention within. So if you have been the person who is always doing meditation, you will always focus your attention within. Then you won't get mad so easily. Then you always are conscious of what you're doing. When you're conscious of what you're doing, your wisdom level is higher and higher. When you're not conscious of what you're doing, you're using emotional mind, your wisdom level is get lower and lower. You know why? Because you habituated yourself into thinking of being emotional. You interpret every circumstances using your emotional mind. So actually in our meditation, a higher form of meditation is to see your reaction to things. Not just to see your breath. We said anapanasati, your breath in and breath out, breath in and breath out. That is just training. You have to watch how you interpret your reaction to things. Don't be misled by your interpretation. If your interpretation says, curse that guy, fight him, injure him, put him down or strike him or something like that, that is an emotional reaction. If you always contemplate and watch your reaction to things, then you won't be emotional. There's a lot I can talk about. This question can trigger a lot of the Buddhist teaching for applying Buddhism. But what you should do is use the Four Noble Truths, identify the problem by getting a discussion of it, getting a meeting of it. And if they're being too unreasonable, you explain to them. You don't get emotional. They get emotional, but you don't. If you're wrong, you just ask for forgiveness. If they are wrong, you forgive them. That's how you deal with it. The Four Noble Truths. You have to find a technique that is not emotional. And then you can solve the problem. Next question. In the courtyard, there is a shrine to a general who reached enlightenment. A general achieves through war, violence. How can you pick up a sword to defend and still reach enlightenment? Respectfully, thanks. That's a good question. First of all, let's identify these four characters. These 4 characters belong to the kings of the first level of heaven. Remember I said the whole world is in 3 strata. The first strata, the first level, is Kamadhatu, which is world with desires. And the second level is world without desires, but there's still form left. And the third level is world without desire and without form, only consciousness left. You and I, we are in the lowest level, which is the world with desires. And in the lower level, the world of desires, we are humans, but there are also the 6 heavens in this world of desires. They're heavenly people. And the first level of heaven is where these 4 generals, where they are the kings of the first level. But they still belong to the world of desires. People in that level of existence, they live very long. We live for 100 years and we die. They live for thousands and thousands of years. And they only have happiness. They don't go through suffering. They only have happiness. That's the reason why they're called heavens, the first heaven. But going to heaven is not the ultimate way to go, because people in heaven, after they serve all their good karma, they still die and reincarnate again into the 6 paths of reincarnation. So these are the 4 generals in the first heaven. And these 4 generals, one with the sword and look very ferocious on the face and defending and all that, defending their own country and all that. They are the kings there, and when they were humans, or in their previous life, they vowed to protect Buddhism. They vowed to propagate Buddhism and promote the Buddhist teaching. So when they were reborn as king in that level, they still want to protect Buddhism. And they still have the habitually emotional mind, like you and I. But their emotion, of course, is not as severe as our emotions, because they enjoy a very high level of bliss, a very higher level of happiness. But they still have sensuality. They still have a mind that is not enlightened. Don't say that they were enlightened. They were not enlightened. They were just the security guards of Buddhism. That's called the security guards of Buddhism. After they serve their term, the good term for enjoying in that heaven, they still have to reincarnate. So they're like you and me, but they are in a much higher level of enlightenment. They're not fully enlightened. They want to protect Buddhism. Sometimes they manifest authority in order to protect Buddhism. Sometimes they manifest compassion. It depends on circumstances. They are still sentient beings. They are righteous people because they practiced the 10 virtuous deeds in order to reincarnate into that heaven kingdom. What are these 10 righteous deeds? Abstain from killing, abstain from lying, abstain from stealing, abstain from sexual misconduct, abstain from cursing, abstain from flowery language, and abstain from mentality, greediness, hatred, ignorance, and violence. And it has been a tradition of the temple, in many temples too, not just the Chinese temple, that these are the guardians of the temple, because they vow to protect Buddhism, to protect the Buddhist teaching. So in order to protect the Buddhist teaching, they have to use their authority. If you come to destroy, they will destroy you. If you come to destroy the temple, they will destroy you. One way or the other. I don't know how they exercise the spiritual power. I remember, this is a story told to me by my family doctor. So one day the family doctor told me, he said, I had something I had to tell you. He told me a circumstance that he experienced when he was 17 years old. When he was 16, 17 years old in Hong Kong, teenagers, they like to practice Kung Fu. You know, that's the time when Bruce Lee was so common, was so prevalent as a movie star, Bruce Lee. And all the teenagers were learning Kung Fu, and he learned Kung Fu. He learned Kung Fu, and he learned in the Kung Fu, he learned what we call Wing Chun. That's a Kung Fu that Bruce Lee practiced. And you have to be very close to your opponent in order to win. In other words, if the opponent is fighting with you and the opponent is getting a further distance from you, have to chase him up and get him close in order to fight him. And we call it in praise of spring or something like that. That's the name of that Kung Fu. So he was learning Kung Fu, and to keep it short, he was learning Kung Fu. And one day he went to China with a group of people, and he went to a temple, and the temple had these 4 guardians right at the entrance. The 4 guardians right at the entrance, and so a group of people, young guys walking in there, and he was looking at the general, and the general with a sword in his hand. And he was so naughtily saying that, hey, with that sword, you think you can fight me? You know, he was talking to the statue, and he challenged the statue to fight him, because he thought that he was very good at his Kung Fu. So the other guys, other teenagers were laughing. Oh, don't say that, you're in trouble. You know, how can you say something like that? Yeah, really, it's just a wooden statue holding a sword in his hand, and I don't know if he can really fight. So they went back to Hong Kong. And the next day, he woke up. He had muscular pain everywhere. The bones were in pain, everywhere's in pain. So he talked to his mom. Mom, I don't know why. I feel my muscles are all in pain. I don't know why. So we went to see a doctor, and after a whole series of appointments, a lot of doctors for 7 months, 6-7 months, so he could not recover from the pain. Still had the pain. He couldn't study. He was in pain, but not so severe that he was dying. No, it was a lingering on pain. So the mom was so skeptical about his sickness, and the mom and somebody said, well, you think he asked another woman, and the woman said, is it possible that your son has been possessed by a spirit or something like that? Because how come all the doctors, when you consult so many doctors already, and he's still feeling the pain? Oh, could be. So I asked him, where have you been? What happened to you? And some people said that you may be possessed by a spirit. No, I don't think so. Oh, but I remember 6 months ago I went to the temple, and I was yelling at the Sei Dai Tin Wang, at the guardian, the security guardian, the Buddhist guardian. I was yelling at him. Is it because of that? I don't know. The mom said, oh, that's it. Let's go back to the temple. So the mom accompanied his son going back to the temple with all kinds of flowers and offerings, and kneeling in front of the statues and asked for forgiveness. Please forgive my son. He didn't know what he was talking about, and he could have been saying something that is a sacrilege to the religion, to you, but he didn't mean it, and we really would like to ask for your forgiveness and say their prayers and all that. And then return back to Hong Kong. And the next day, the son didn't feel any pain at all. No more pain. All of a sudden, no more pain. Nothing like that. So don't think that spiritual beings exist. It may not be that king. It may be some spirits who also assist that king in safeguarding Buddhism, and that spirit could be standing around by the side. And not necessarily the king revenge on it. Not necessarily the warrior revenge on it. It's the other spirits who had to find justice. He thought, you guy, how can you say anything like that? I'm going to follow you and make you suffer from pain. Okay, so these 4 warriors, they haven't reached enlightenment yet, but they're protectors of Buddhism. They're still working towards an enlightenment, but they would like to use authority to protect Buddhism. One with a sword in his hand, the other with an umbrella for protection, protecting the umbrella. The other is with the guitar, more gentle. He likes to use the guitar to subdue people, a musical domination. And the other is with a snake. The flexibility of the snake is all these other methods to use to promote Buddhism, to protect Buddhism. So don't think that the warriors were enlightened, and enlightened Buddha still used the sword to fight people. No, don't think it that way. Next question. If death is liberating, why are we carrying our karmas into the next life? We can carry our memory, but carrying on karma seems a bit unfair. You claim that carrying your karma to your next life is unfair. What gives rise to the karma? First of all, you have to know the origin of the karma. What gives rise to your own karma? You sow that seed. You say, I have sowed the apple seed and I don't want apple trees. It's unfair. I sowed the seed, I don't want to see any apples. If I see apples growing up, it's unfair. Is it right? You sow your seeds, you germinate, that cause, you have that effect. You can't say, oh, I'm a student of UBC and I'm taking this Philosophy 100 and I have not been studying, but I should be given an A. If I don't get an A, it's unfair. You didn't study. Nobody forces you. It's not God who determined it. You yourself, you walk that path. How can you say it is unfair? You did a wrong deed and you were caught by the police and you tell the police, it's unfair. Would he listen to you? Would a judge listen to you? Judge, it's unfair. I heard that guy, but it's unfair. You treat me with 2 years in prison. It's unfair. Nobody forces you to do it. You did it all by yourself. As a matter of fact, that the fairest treatment is the karmic energy. Causality is the most fair in the world. It does not matter how rich you are. You could be a multi-billionaire, but if you kill someone, if you get caught, you'll be punished by law. You can't say, I killed someone, I'm a multi-billionaire, and I used $1 million to buy back my life. Can you do that? In some countries you may, but not in a country that is fair. So you did all that, and how can you say it is unfair? And in some ancient Chinese books, it is written that it is the most fair in hell. It could be unfair in the world, but it's fair in hell. Why is it unfair in the world and fair in hell? Because whatever you have done, the bad things, you went down to hell because you did bad things. Whatever you have done, they already have a videotape of it, believe it or not. They already have a videotape of whatever deed, the smallest deed you have done. You think you can get away with it? They already have a videotape of it. And when you get down there, waiting for the judgment of the judge, and you say, I didn't do it. Have you got any evidence? I didn't do it. He'll roll the videotape for you can see it. Is that you? Is that what you did? Every second of it is on the videotape. You can get away with it. You can lie. It's right on tape. If you didn't do it, how come we have a tape of this? It's just like in this world, if the judge have every second of tape of the murder that you committed, you think you can get away with it? You think that is a movie. You can't say that. So in hell, it's very fair. In hell, it's extremely fair. You can't get away with anything. But in this world, it's unfair. You know why? Because there's corruption. There's bribery. And you can get away with it. If you're sneaky, you hide somewhere, you can get away in this life. You can buy your life in some countries. That's unfair. But when you die, you still have to go through the trial. So very fair in hell, unfair in this world. Venerable, if a person would like to start a daily meditation practice, can they mix meditation techniques from day to day? Could you describe good daily practice for a layman who works 8 to 10 hours per day? I think the best is to combine your chanting with your meditation. Because if you chant Nam Mô A Mì Tho Pho with compassion, with confidence, with faith, with practice, training yourself like that. If you're not successful in your meditation to reach the higher enlightenment level, at your juncture of death, maybe 100 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later, I don't know. We hope to live as long as possible, but you have to die. There's no exception. You have to die. You have to die anyway. When you die, you don't want to reincarnate again. However, your meditation practice that you have been doing every day, you have not done enough to justify you reaching enlightenment. Then what do? You rely on Amitabha to receive your spirit into that land for further practice. Because now Amitabha, the Buddha, make a vow that for those who are not successful in their practice, he will finish it for you by first admitting you into his university. Admitting you into his university so that he can continue training you to get enlightenment. You don't have to roll back into reincarnation anymore. That's a very expedient way, and that is very beneficial to you, because how can you guarantee you're successful? If you're not successful, you roll into the next life again. So the best is to go to that world, to be admitted into the Amitabha's world. Plus, Amitabha also make a wish that at the juncture of death, you are at one pointedness of mind, you are chanting his name, and you are suffering physically. He can alleviate you from your suffering. In other words, you won't suffer that much physically. You have the blessings of not suffering that much. Most people die through suffering. Hanging on to the breath. Some people hang on to the breath for months, for years. Like a plant lying on bed with only a bucket of liquid for breakfast, and then the bucket of another plastic bag of liquid for lunch, the third plastic bag for dinner. So the breakfast, lunch, and dinner is 3 bags, big bags. Maybe more, I don't know. And that's what they enjoy. They're lying in there, they're doing nothing, they're just taking into the nutritions, and they just lie in there. If in case you're going through that, say for example for a day, for 2 days, or for 3 days, and you immediately say, Nam Mô Tho, I've been chanting your name, and please receive me, admit me in your university, which is called the Pure Land University. Admitted into that university. I don't want to suffer anymore. I want to go down and study and become the Buddha, become enlightened. And if you are so earnest, you'll be receiving there. You're dying anyway. By the way, a lot of people blame me and say, every time when I come to the temple, Reverend, you always talk about dying. That's no good. I'm coming for blessings, not dying. But everybody has to die. You have to acknowledge the fact. Are there meditation techniques that enable individuals to transcend physical limitations? I understand that there is a young man who has meditated for 6 years in Church of Enlightenment without taking food or water. Are there meditation techniques that makes this possible? Meditation would make everything possible. But it takes the really fervent, conscientious, and persistent meditator to achieve that. And when you're a meditator, your objective is not to be supernatural. Your objective is not to say, I want to be a Superman. That's why I'm meditating. I want to have supernatural power. If you're in search of supernatural power, you're going to ride the wrong path. Because you cling onto power. You cling on being supernatural. You have a big ego that stops you from enlightenment. Your supernatural power is a byproduct of the enlightenment and not the objective of enlightenment. And when you have those supernatural powers, you don't talk about it. You only used it when you are in need, when your friends are in need. For example, if you have natural power of telepathy, or when you have natural power of being able to predict the predictability of the events, say in a year, and you know your friend will be going through some minor accident, and will say, okay, don't drive on that particular day, or don't do this, don't do that. And you're giving this power out, but you don't say that I have the power to tell you. I have supernatural power. You don't say that. You just help without saying you have that power. You know why? Because if you're saying it, you're just aggrandizing your ego. You're not letting go. You're adding, how can you have, then your supernatural power will disappear. Because supernatural power only comes from an egoless state of mind. If a person is afraid of riding an airplane, what can the person do? Don't ride an airplane. It's a very simple question. But on the other hand, to get rid of the fear, do meditation. Because why do you have airplane fright? Remember, your mind creates the past from memory. You agonize on the past. And your mind creates imagination for the future. Because you worry about, you imagine an accident. You visualize an accident that gives rise to a fear. Stop imagining. Stop the imagination, then you stop your worry. Don't emerge, okay, if I get on the airplane, I'm going to San Francisco, and I've heard that there's certain traffic accident in San Francisco, I'm going to get this plane crash when I get there. I'll die. I'll die. So you always create that imagination in your mind that you will get into that plane, that you will die. You're creating a fear that hasn't come yet. Stop creating imagination. There's no past, there's no future. So why do you bring the future, create a future through imagination of plane crash and worry about it? Remember, the Diamond Sutra says there's no past, there's no future, there's no present. Even the present does not exist. Why the present does not exist? Because every present takes away by the time you talk about it. I hear the clock here. When I say yes, then it clicks and that yes is gone. There's no present. Don't attach to the past. Don't attach to the future. Don't attach to the present. No time dimensions. Don't attach to time dimensions. Let go of time. Let go of space. Then you transcend. Let go of transcendence. Please tell me about my past life. How can I tell you? How can I tell you about your past life? I can't even tell you my past life. That's me, my past life. I can't tell. How can I tell about your past life? My daughter Jennifer is married, and in America, she was a counselor in Douglas College and yoga teacher. My husband, let's briefly summarize this. Every family members, they don't come together for no good reasons. They always have some unfinished affairs that they have to come together again for this life. Some has to come to repay the debt. Some has to come to get back a debt. And that debt could be in monetary term and could be in emotional term. I know a family, I know that a very good mom, and she has a daughter, and she particularly pay attention to the children's education. So she got a tutor, she got her a good school, her daughter a good school, a good tutor, spent a lot of money and paid a lot of attention, and then the daughter graduated from high school and got a scholarship from Harvard University. And so she went to Harvard and she paid for everything, and she even paid to stay with her for 6 months in an apartment, accompany her to the campus, to college. And she finally graduated from the law with a law degree, and then practiced for 1 year. And the mom spent a lot of money on her. And she was even appointed as the first judge, a Chinese woman in America, the first judge in America, a Chinese woman. And on the second day of her appointment, she committed suicide. And the mom was so grief-stricken. She paid a lot of money. She put in all her emotion, all her passion, everything. She spent her whole life concentrating in cultivation for the daughter. The daughter got everything. The daughter had never been treating her mom right anyway. And right at the peak of her career, she passed away. And the mom was so grief-stricken and was so affected, and she passed away after 6 months. So she came back to get her, to get the money. And sometimes in monetary terms, and sometimes in emotion terms. In other words, you divorced your husband without any reason. You committed adultery. And because of that, your husband committed suicide, previous life. And in this life, she came back as your son. And, oh, you love him so much, but he didn't love you. Finally, he got into trouble. He killed someone, and he said, it's not me who did it, my mom did it. And the mom have to prove that she didn't do it, and they went to court. So finally, the case had been going on for a number of years, and I don't know what the result is, but the mom suffered so much, and the son finally died, and the mom was left lonely, the only son in the family. So they always have some debts to repay, even between husband and wife. Between husband and wife, the daughters, sons and daughters and brothers and sisters, if they come back to love you, that means you were in good terms before. If they come back to get you, that means you didn't treat them right in your previous life. So every family member is like that. So don't attach too much passion to everything. Detached from being so passionate. But I didn't say that you're not responsible. You have to still have to be a responsible father, responsible wife, responsible husband. Because you really have to fulfill your obligations anyway. The Buddha said, do not reincarnate anymore. Don't get involved in this family business anymore. So you've got to balance it out. If you don't get a balance in this life, you'll balance in your next life. So get away from reincarnation. No more reincarnation, no more samsara, enlightenment, or go to the Pure Land.